that. So welcome everybody, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to put up my flag. As you recall, this is my flag that I got when I became an American citizen. So I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
which it stands,
one
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any guests? I'm recognizing most people, but do we have any guests? Do you know? Bob on? Okay. Well, if you were a guest and I have not introduced you, I apologize and welcome. So I'm going to just do a few announcements. Some sad, some happy, and I just wanted to share. Grant, thank you so much for sharing with me that the obituary of our Rotarian Club member, Alan Raleigh. He passed away on January 16th. Alan has been a member of the Rotary Club of Topeka, probably called Downtown Topeka when he joined, since 1964. And while he lived in New Mexico now, he still remained a member of our club. So I wanted to make sure you were all aware of that. So thank you, Grant, for sharing. I also wanted to share that my fellow president, Rotary president in Topeka, Ashley Charest's husband, Aaron, passed away this week. And I wanted to let you know that I sent flowers in our club's name. And we will also look at a memorial donation option, but I wanted to be able to send, to acknowledge Ashley's loss of her husband, Aaron, and the relationship we have across clubs. On a happier note, we raised $130 for the giraffe brick donation project at the zoo. So thank you to everybody who contributed at our meeting last week. I purchased 2 bricks in our club's name, and they will be placed in 2 different areas. So if you have an opportunity, once the exhibit is up, to go to the zoo, you will see the Rotary Club of Topeka in two areas. So I covered the difference in the dollars. And so if you would like to contribute, feel free, but you do not have to. The 2 bricks were $200 together, and I'm really proud of the partnership we have with the zoo and the ability to do this. So thank you, everybody. Just reminder that we are still collecting Rotary Cup money for our local charities. And Joan, will you do me a favor and remind me who was our January charity? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that. I will look it up in a minute. I don't remember. I sent you the list and
I didn't remember either. So
Joe and I'll look it up and let them know. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay.
But we're hoping that everybody, once you know what you're giving to, this will inspire everybody to give a little more. So and it's just wonderful to be able to give back at the local level as well as at the district level and Rotary International. So our program today is a little bit different. This is an all club orientation. And what that means is we're going to learn all about our club specifically, but also the Rotary and what we do as a local club, a national club, and even an international club. And I'm very honored to be able to say that our membership co-chairs have coordinated this training session and meeting. I am pretty confident, regardless of how long you've been with the club, you're going to learn something new. Thank you, Bob. Our club money is CASA. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I learn something new every single time that we're involved with Rotary, and that I have an opportunity to engage and be part of the club and the good work that we do. So we decided to do this over Zoom just because it would add a little bit of flexibility in how we're doing it, but we also wanted to make sure that we were being as careful as possible during this time, and really wanted to make sure everybody could attend that we needed to attend. So I am going to turn this over to Jeanette and Shelley is going to be kind of running the PowerPoint and the program. So
thanks, Marie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can get started. As we're going along, if any of you have questions, if you want to put it in chat, either I can try to get to them at the end, or perhaps Marie or somebody can break in it from time to time, and and we can try to answer those as we go. All right, so Marie, can I get a thumbs up? Can you see my slides? Fantastic, thank you. I want to first off thank Marie. Last night, she and Joan, they joined Jeanette and I, and we try to kind of go through this and do some technical troubleshooting, and hopefully this all goes smoothly today. As she mentioned, we're going to do orientation today. I know we have a handful of members who have never been through an orientation, and we have a lot of members who maybe it's been quite some time since you have been through an orientation. We thought this would be a good time to go ahead and have one. We haven't had an orientation in our club since before the pandemic. So I think it was January of 2020 was the last time we had one. This is an entirely new format from that we're testing out. So we're very open to suggestions and feedback after today, things that you liked, things that, maybe we should add or change. So if you have great ideas, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Jeanette so that we can, take those ideas and possibly implement them. So, what is Rotary, right? We've all joined Rotary for various reasons, but really what does that entail? And we have a very short little video that Jeanette found here that does a good job of kind of explaining that. And this was one of the things that we troubleshot. So hopefully the sound will be better today than it was last night. If not, bear with me. It's less than 2 minutes, and we will, and if it doesn't work, let me know and we'll try to fix that for the future. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here.
Is Rotary. Rotary is a voluntary, nonprofit, non-governmental, non-religious organization of industry professionals and academics working in intertwined autonomous networks providing self-education, exchange of knowledge, and humanitarian aid. It might sound complex, but it's built on a very simple philosophy. You go through life, working, studying, and taking care of your loved ones. But at some point, you might stop and feel a spark, an urge to not only do good, but to help others as well as yourself. Throughout life, you've had tons of ideas. All of them might not have been the most complex or the most developed, but it's the thought that counts, isn't it? When an idea is introduced into the Rotarian network, and we exchange thoughts, knowledge, and experience, ideas grow along with ourselves and are brought into reality. That is what Rotary is. We know that simple thoughts can become the beginning of something huge and life-changing for millions of people around the world. For us, it has led to projects like local mentorship programs, providing clean water, building schools, disease awareness campaigns, scholarships, exchange programs, wigs for cancer patients, teaching kids karate, providing medical care, blood donations, fighting illiteracy, protecting mothers and children, and emergency food supplies. And to think that our first project was a public toilet, and now we're on the brink of eradicating polio. We believe that with the right people, the smallest thing can make a huge difference. So when you feel the spark, remember Rotary.
This is the world's first reusable cotton swab.
Sorry
It
about
removes
that.
up
Yay, YouTube advertisements. All right, let's get back to the slideshow. So I thought we'd start kind of with a quick little history lesson on parts of Rotary, and then we'll talk a little bit kind of about what our club is doing. And then so that you don't only have to listen to me today, we have a few folks who have graciously volunteered to talk about some of the various aspects of our club towards the end of the program. And so I think that you should definitely look forward to hearing what some of the, what they have to say as well. So most of you probably recognize the Rotary wheel. That has been around in some fashion for quite some time. So the original design, right, was just a simple wagon wheel. As you can see, it has evolved over time. Original clubs used some version of a wagon wheel on their publications and their letterheads. And then in 1922, all of the Rotary clubs adopted the gear wheel that you would probably recognize today, right? It's maybe not exactly the same as what you see now, because it has evolved over time, but it would be recognizable. And the gear has, all of the elements of the gear represent different things, right? So the teeth that are around the outside of the gear represent work that's still to be done. The 6 spokes that are on the inside represent the inner direction and path of our vocational service. And the spokes also represent the outward distribution path, that Rotary's ideals of service, and our 4-way test. We'll be talking a little bit more about that 4-way test here in just a moment. In 1923, there was a keyway that was added to the center of the wheel to signify that the wheel is a worker and not an idler. There was a group of engineers that had taken a look at the geared wheel and said that it was mechanically unsound, that it would not work if it did not have that keyway in the center to attach to a shaft, for power to turn it. And so it's of great significance because it represents the individual Rotarian member who is the key factor in every club. It's quality members, right, that are the keys that are needed for that hub to engage that shaft and turn, thus putting energy in motion to create power for our gears to turn. And so I think that kind of is a good representation of how Rotary works. It's all of the individual members coming together, right, to create something larger. At the 1929 Rotary International Convention, blue and gold were made the official colors of the organization, and the gear wheel was redesigned with those colors in mind. The 4 blue bars that are on the outer radius of the gear represent our 4 avenues of service. There's the club service, which focuses on making our club strong through active membership. There's vocational service, which is mentoring, career days, talking about your job at Rotary, things like that. Community service, right? Rotarians are very good at rolling up their sleeves to help their communities. And international service, which is the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through world fellowship. And then in 2010, there was an additional avenue of service that was added for youth service, which is involving our youth in leadership activities. So as I said before, right, we were going to talk a little bit about the 4-way test. The 4-way test was created in 1932 by a Rotarian named Herbert Taylor, and it's been translated into at least 100 different languages. The test is, of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now, as you'll see at the end of today, our club has maybe added 1 or 2 points to that to personalize it a little for ourselves. But the idea of the 4-way test is when you're doing things, does it meet these criteria? And if not, it may be worth re-examining why it is, right, that you're doing something. And so let's talk a little bit more specifically about our club and kind of in Rotary today. So in our club for new members, we historically have had what we call the badge program or the red badge, blue badge program. And the idea was a new member would get a red badge, which would let everybody in the club know that they were a new member. So, it served one purpose to make sure that we all went and introduced ourselves and got to know our new members. But then also there was a set of tasks that each new member could complete, and then you would get your graduate to your blue badge. And those tasks are things like being the greeter at meetings and other things to help integrate our new members into the club. Well, because of COVID, that has been largely suspended over the last couple of years. But we do think in the membership committee, we've been looking at that, and we think there's a lot of value in the program. And so we're looking at ways that we can revive that and refresh that. So if you have been through it and have ideas on ways that we could improve that, or if you haven't, but you have great ideas on ways that you think we could better integrate you into the club, please reach out to Jenna or myself or anybody on our leadership team so that we can take those ideas and look at making a new member program that, you know, is very robust and make sure that we help integrate all of our new members in the best possible way we can to our club. Our club is made up of a handful of committees. And this is a list of those committees. So you maybe think about some of the committees that interest you and that you might like to join and, you know, help further the mission of the Rotary Club of Topeka, right? We have the service committee that that coordinates a lot of our community service. And you'll hear later from somebody to talk about one of those programs that we do. We have the membership committee, which we do things like new member orientation that you're seeing now, as well as try to develop new programs to meet membership goals that are set by the club. We have a newer committee, the Social Justice Committee, and I'm hoping that the next time we do this, we'll have somebody who can speak a little bit more on the work that they're doing. So I think that's within the last year or so, if I'm correct, that we introduced that. So that's a pretty brand new committee. We have the Programs Committee that helps put on these great programs that we do. The Sergeant at Arms. We have a District Grant Committee. We'll hear a little bit more about grants in a bit. We have the International Service Committee, Communications Committee, and Youth Service. So if any of those areas pique your interest, give that some thought. You'll be hearing from somebody from the membership committee over the next few weeks, especially if you're a newer member, to see if there might be somewhere that you would like to get plugged in and start becoming more involved in the club. So our club is fortunate that we actually have our own foundation. So the Rotary Club of Topeka has a charitable foundation that provides grants to organizations in our community. Our current signature charity is the Day Center for Victim Survivors of Human Trafficking and Exploitation at the YWCA. You'll be hearing from Joan in a little bit. She's going to talk about the foundation as well as a little bit of our club history and just all of the things that our foundation has been able to provide and just how fortunate we are to have that, because not every Rotary Club has its own foundation. And I think she's going to talk about we have members who have been donating to our foundation as long as they've been members of the club, and that's, you know, fantastic. Most of you probably know, right, that Rotary International, one of their signature cause, right, is the eradication of polio. And they do that through their Polio Plus program and the World Polio Day. Our club, the Rotary Club of Topeka, we do participate every year in World Polio Day, and we help raise money every year for that Polio Plus initiative. And club members can also donate through Rotary International's website to the Polio Plus initiative. And then Paul Harris was the founding member of Rotary. And there is like a whole Paul Harris culture within Rotary. There's the Paul Harris Fellows, and those are individuals who have contributed $1,000 to Rotary International's charitable foundation. And there's the Paul Harris Society, and that recognizes Rotary members who elect to contribute $1,000 or more annually to Rotary International's annual fund, the Polio Plus initiative, or certain approved global grants. And we have members of our club who are in both the Paul Harris Fellow and the Paul Harris Society. So our club is very active in helping further Rotary International's goals and initiatives. And so that's just a very quick overview. And I would like, so that we're gonna hear from Joan Wagnon here, and she's gonna talk to us, like I said, about the foundation and some history of the club. She's got a very rich history with the club, and I always enjoy hearing what she has to say. And then Stan has been doing great things for us, and he's going to talk to us some more about the grants programs and why that's so important to our club. Cody Fredrickson, until recently, had been chairing our service committee and has done a fantastic job with that. He's going to talk to us about Coats for Kids, which is one of the initiatives that we have been doing year in and year out, or at least since I've been here for a couple of years. So hopefully he'll know how long that's been going on. And then if Angel Zimmerman has made it, she's going to talk to us more about our Interact program. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that we can turn it over to Joan Wagner. I don't see, and Marie, I don't see any questions in chat. Did you get anything? Fantastic. Well, then let's turn it over to Joan so that she can talk to us a little bit more about our foundation and our club history.
I was tickled by the comment you made that I have a rich history. I think that's a euphemism for I've been around for a long time. In 1987, I believe, the Supreme Court of the United States said that Rotary couldn't remain an all-male group and that they needed to start adding women because not being able to join a Rotary club deprived them of opportunities to network. And at that time, there were maybe 200 and plus members of the club. I see Larry Demitz on. Larry would help me if I get those numbers wrong. But my friend Jim McHenry submitted my name as a prospective member. And the club sat on it for about a year because I was director of the YWCA at the time. And finally, John Knoll, who is Steve Knoll's father, said, it's time we deal with this. And so I was inducted into the first Rotary meeting where women were allowed. You know, they've been on, they were able to come as spouses, but not as a member. And it was somewhat terrifying to walk into the Ramada Inn, and there were more than 100 people assembled there. And John Knoll gave them a stern look and made them all say the four-way test. And I thought that was a good way to start. So I thought, okay, I'm going to enjoy this. And I got involved until I took a job that had me traveling the state, and I couldn't really stick with it a long time. So I dropped out. Not because I didn't want to be a Rotarian, but I was on the road all the time. And Roger Eshelman called me up and said, we want you to come back. So my message in the story is this: that's how we get new members. We used to be a 200 plus member club, and we can be that again, or maybe we don't want to be quite that big. But bringing in new members is the way that we continue what happens in Rotary. And if Roger hadn't called me, I would have missed on an opportunity to rise up through the ranks, plan programs, be the president, get to run the Freedom Festival for a couple of years. That was a bit of a dubious honor, I must admit, and do all kinds of things that I thought made the community a better place. And what I've settled on more recently is the Rotary Foundation. Shelley's right. We don't have, we are not like other Rotary clubs in that we have our own foundation. And it was created probably back in the 50s and 60s because they thought it was important that we begin to express our service in terms of things that we could contribute to the community in hard cash. The Topeka Rotary Foundation is not like the Rotary International Foundation. We only fund projects in Shawnee County, and we only fund charitable projects, but we have three duties. We manage our investments, we raise money to build the endowment, and we distribute the interest earned to charities. There are 9 members of the foundation. They are elected by you, the club, and they change. They have 3-year terms, and we rotate 3 every year. I'm going off the foundation, and I see Angel Zimmerman's out there somewhere. She's coming on the foundation. And right now, Bob Clausen, who was kind enough to go look up where the cup money is going, is our treasurer, and he keeps track of our investments. I thought you might be interested to know that when we closed the books on 2021, we had the foundation collected $1,800 for Pints for Polio, which we transmitted to the International Foundation. We'd received $2,276.47 in cup money. We had received $11,581 in unrestricted gifts ranging from $25 to $1,500. We had collected $1,000, which was a restricted gift for youth civic education. And altogether, we raised $16,657. And one of our donors was, unfortunately, Alan Raleigh, who we are sad to report he's no longer with us. But Alan has been giving since he joined. And what was it, Marie, you said 64? He's been a regular contributor. And if you were at the Rotary meeting last time, you heard Sam Karkoff receive his Paul Harris Award. Well, not only had Sam been sending in $25 with his dues payment every quarter to Rotary International, he has for the last 21 years sent the same amount to the Topeka Rotary Foundation. And it's that kind of consistent giving on the part of our members that has allowed us to be able to do what it is that we do. I thought you would be interested in knowing that the Signature Project started with a grant to the Center for Peace and Justice and Freedom and Peace and Justice. Carl Fraser was on the board at the time. Carl, that's how you and I became acquainted, because we were working on, I'm losing the term, restorative justice in the public schools. And we gave a $20,000 grant to the Peace Center for 3 years so that they could train teachers and keep that work going, which is still going now. And I think Carl's still president of the board at the Peace Center. We said we're not going to support an organization for more than 3 years because we want to give them a boost, help them get off the ground, and we ask about their ability to sustain their operations when our funding ceases. So then we moved to pick up a grant for the YWCA on human trafficking. And they wanted to build the safe house that's over on Huntoon Street now for victims of human trafficking. And as part of that, the South Club got interested. The district governor got interested. And Larry was on the international board at that time. And we got a global grant for that program, which was spearheaded by the Rotary Club of Mumbai, if you can believe that. And altogether about $150,000, including our $20,000, was put together for that. They're in their final year of funding right now, and they've already received $10,000 this year in 21, and they'll receive another $10,000 by the end of the Rotary year in July. So we're on the hunt for a new project. And we will be authorizing an RFP, a request for proposal, that will go out in March or April. We'll be getting responses back. And again, this is to be funded a local project. We can't fund an international project, but you should listen and watch Marie's newsletters because we will give information to you when that RFP is out. And if you know of a project that needs to be funded and we're perfect for it, then we want to hear from you. Our 9 members take their charter very, very seriously. And I also want to give you one more number, and then I'm going to wind this up. In 2017, when I started watching this, our foundation was worth $444,000. In 2021, as we ended the year 12/31, we had $678,102.65. I thought that was pretty good. Now, the stock market's kind of eroded a little of that, but it'll come back up. But you should be extraordinarily proud of that foundation and what it does. And as members of the foundation, vocal about what your interests are and what we need to do in the future. I'll stand for questions whenever you want to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joan. Hopefully everybody can agree after that, like just how fortunate we are to have that foundation and just how much good we can do in our community because of that foundation. And so if you have any questions on how to donate to the foundation, you can reach out to Joan, I'm sure, or Bob, or anybody who's on that foundation. I'm sure that they're willing to chat with you about it.
On the website, there's a link on the website.
Yes, there is.
So keep going.
And she may have questioned my motives, but I think you can all agree that she indeed has a rich history with our club, and I stand by that and will always stand by that. So thank you again so much, Joan. Let's turn it over to Stan, because I think it dovetails nicely into the grants that we can get and kind of how we can, use what we do locally as well as grants that we get from other places and put that to good work. So Stan.
I'm here to talk about district grants, and although the process of applying for and the record keeping and so forth is kind of complicated, I'm going to try and keep it very simple and kind of hit the highlights. But before I talk about district grants, I want to talk about very briefly about Rotary International Foundation for two reasons. It's highly rated by Charity Navigator. It's highly efficient. They're very good stewards of the dollars that are donated. Number two, they in turn return money back to the district, which funds our district grants. So, for example, when any member donates to the annual fund at Rotary International, the money is held and invested for 3 years, and then half of it is sent back to the district for the districts to conduct their business, and a portion of that money goes towards district grants. The other half goes to, for instance, global grants and more of the international projects that Rotary works on. And I think that's kind of a unique deal because they'll invest and then return the funds at a later date. District grants are managed by the district. We are in District 5710. There is a grant committee that reviews the applications and awards the grants. The district grants are for short-term projects, and in fact, they have to be completed within 1 year of the funds that come to a club. So global grants and so forth can be multi-year projects, but district grants by their nature are short-term. The amount that comes back to our club is a function, again, of how much we donated 3 years ago. It's really just pretty much a mathematical formula. The more we give this year, the more we will receive back 3 years from now. So there's kind of a motivation. If we want to have good service projects and have funds available, it behooves us to make those donations to Rotary International. The goal is, for most clubs, or really all clubs, is $100 per capita. So for instance, if we have 150 members and our goal is to contribute at least $15,000 to the Rotary International annual fund, and if we achieve that, we are named a star club, and that makes a difference, and I'll mention that a little bit later. But there is a requirement for any dollars we receive, the club has to match 50 cents for every dollar we receive. For instance, if we get $5,000 in grant funds, we have to come up with $2,500. So we separately budget anticipating that we'll get some of the grant money. And so there is money in our budget to be able to provide those matching dollars. Now there's two types. I apologize, there's a phone ringing in the background. There are two types of district grants. There's the guaranteed funds, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a mathematical calculation, and you're going to get some of the funds, you're going to get guaranteed funds. you do have to have in your grant application, the service project has to be related to one of the 6 Rotary focus areas, but those are very broad. And so almost any service project you're going to come up with, you're going to be able to say, well, this relates to one of the focus areas. There is and by the way, you can have multiple applications for a guaranteed grant fund. You may say, I want to have a small project. I have $500 here. I want to do $1,000 here. And some clubs do multiple grant applications for guaranteed funds. There is a second type of grant, and it's called a discretionary grant. And as the name suggests, the committee can decide how much that is, or you may not get anything. But you separately submit a grant application. And those funds come about because, for instance, some of the small clubs, they're going to have some guaranteed dollars available, but they don't file a grant application. So some of the money is lumped over and put into this available for discretionary grants. And so you separately can submit an application for a grant, discretionary grant. And we did that this year and actually did quite well. So as the name suggests, they're not guaranteed. They are actually a much more stringent review. And you really have to present a good application, have a good service project that the committee likes in order to get discretionary funds. There are pretty stringent reporting requirements. For instance, they absolutely are adamant you have to have a separate bank account for any grant funds you receive. The reporting requirements are very stringent, and you have to follow up with copies of receipts and so forth. And I painfully went through that process, and it took quite a while. But I during my term, we did, with Cody's help, get all the paperwork to them, and it satisfied that. So that's district grants in a nutshell. They do fund our service projects, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do the Coach for Kids project. And before that, it was the Shoes, Soulmates, and many projects in the past. So I would encourage you to give to Rotary International. I would also encourage you to give the Rotary or local Rotary Foundation, because they focus on local projects. And Marie, or actually Jeanette, said, say something about why you're a Rotarian. I joined, it was a little over 15 years ago. And I kind of make this distinction between being a member and being a Rotarian. For the first couple of years, I was a member. I showed up. I enjoyed the presentations because I like to know what's going on in town. I like hearing what's new in Topeka. And so that added value. And there was a networking opportunity. But they asked for a volunteer to sit at the front desk. And this was about 2 or 3 years in. I raised my hand, and this would be the welcome desk or the check-in desk. And I started doing that. And lo and behold, I met almost every Rotarian in the club. And that helped me get energized. But I can tell you, the more I learned about Rotary, the more I fell in love with it, because it does fantastic things all over the place, locally, nationally, and internationally. And the deeper you dive into Rotary, the more you will appreciate it. And I've come to love Rotary. So that's why Rotary.
Thank you so much, Stan. I think that those first are right. That really highlights the importance that our giving has and how much good that we're able to do. And so our next speaker, Cody Fredrickson, up until recently had chaired our service committee and put a lot of those dollars to good use. And he's going to talk to us briefly about one of those service projects. So Cody.
Thank you, Shelley. So yeah, I've been in charge of our Covered in Codes program for, I think, going on 4 years now. I had joined Rotary about 5+ years ago because, for those of you that remember Ron Barron that worked here at Azura with me, he'd started taking me as a guest, and I kind of enjoyed the free meal. And after about 4 or 5 times, they're like, Cody, you can't come anymore unless you become a member. So I went ahead and filled out my application and became a member. And I'm supposed to do this at the end of the presentation, but kind of like what Stan was saying, I joined Rotary because, for kind of some of the different reasons, it made me get out and do lunch once a week. It made me get around some of the other members. And I tried to make sure that every time I came to Rotary that I was sitting down with a different group of Rotarians that I hadn't necessarily sat with, just so I could try to meet everybody and make it a networking opportunity. But then I really kind of fell for what Rotary is and learned myself that I'm around a bunch of other people who also cannot say no. So that's really my favorite part of Rotary, is that we're always looking for opportunities and always looking for what we can do to better not only our club, but our community and ultimately the world. So in the Covered in Coats program, coming back to Ron, whenever he came and told me that he was moving back to the East Coast in the Virginia area, his parting gift was he handed me the Covered in Coats envelope and said, here you go, you're in charge of the program now. If he had given me the Soulmates folder, I may have accidentally lost it, dropped it at the meeting, never gotten into it, because that program was extremely time intensive. Covered in Coats is pretty intensive as well, but it can be more managed. In fact, Lee Morris came back from a meeting shortly thereafter I became in charge of the program and handed me a business card from a group called Operation Warm, nonprofit organization out of Pennsylvania, where I could actually order all of my coats rather than having to order 50 from Amazon, 75 from Walmart, and 100 from Burlington, and trying to match different colors and sizes to where they were going to go. I could kind of say, okay, well, I need probably 20% of my coats in this size, and they've given me mixed colors, 15% in this size, and could order it from one singular place. And then we were doing about 200, 250 coats per year. I had about 4 to 6 different schools. One of the things that I think our club loves so much about the program was when I go into the schools and we could actually fit the kids. So I've got a 5'6" size for this second grader, but he's a little bit bigger than a normal second grader. So I've got to upsize him to a 7'8" or sometimes even a 9'10". And we could do that on the spot. We'd see the smiles from the kids. We could just see the twinkle in their eye. The staff that cared the most about the kids had the tendency to be the ones that were there in those groups. And it was a fantastic volunteer opportunity for our members. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But of course, thanks to COVID coming in 2 years ago, we could no longer see the kids. So last year it was a matter of just dropping off, 40 or 50 coats at the schools that felt like they had the greatest need. This year it evolved into, with, again, kind of help some additional district monies that we got. We ended up doing 540 coats. One, that was some additional monies that we got, from each of our, from the money that we got, but also because of the size of the order, Operation Warm threw another 5% more coats in. I was like, okay, I'm not trying to get more. I mean, yes, great, I've got more coats, but that wasn't my ultimate goal. So we did 540 coats this year. I went back to the 501 district and I was like, hey, they're like, okay, we're gonna have to spread these out over all 15 elementary schools. And then they came back and was like, hey, do you mind getting us some of the toddler sizes as well for our 3 pre-K schools? And I was like, of course we can. I was like, do I need to go to those 3 schools too? It's like, actually, we're trying to make it easier on you. Just, we're going to throw in one of the schools and they communicate regularly. They get together regularly. They'll kind of know the needs of each of those schools and we'll just have them share among those 3 schools. We ended up delivering to 16 different schools. And I was like, I can't get to 16 different schools. So I came up with a great idea. I was like, okay, here's some volunteer options that we really haven't had during COVID. So I kind of separated piles out. Here's 30 for this school, 35 for that, based on what the needs of the schools were. And then I had Rotarians come over to my office and start picking them up that Friday morning that we delivered them. And then the very last school we got to go out, and the superintendent from 501 came over and met us. The principal was there. We actually got to have 6 or 7 kids come down and got to fit them and got some pictures. So if you haven't seen those, I think Maria's got those up on the website somewhere. So we can actually share those with you guys just to kind of see all the stuff that we do and what's going on with the Covered in Coats program. We've talked about whether we want to continue coats next year because there are several other non-for-profit and charitable organizations in town that are doing that. The Operation Warm group, I actually did try to get some shoes from them this year, but because our grant was a little more specific than normal, coats was all we could do. But they've made shoes more streamlined because, like I said, shoes were very labor intensive. That again, Operation Warm has kind of helped that with. So Again, we're always looking for feedback from club members as to what we should be doing and what we can be doing. So keep that in mind. Also, I'm sure I'll always be looking for a volunteer to pass that program on. I'll give you all the knowledge, information, of course, that all important folder that Ron gave me back in the day. Shelley did kind of mention going back how far Covered and Co started. I don't know. It's been around as long as I have, which has been 5 or 6 years. So we'll have to do some deeper dive and research into when that program started. But thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Pay attention. If you have questions for me, let me know. And back to you, Shelley.
Thank you so much, Cody. And I actually I participated in the Covered and Coast my first year, and it was such a fantastic, that was when we could still see the kids. And that was really great. So thank you. Angel, I know we're running close to the end of our time for today's meeting. So we've got Angel Zimmerman. She's going to talk to us a little bit about Interact. And so I will just turn it right over to you. Thank you, Angel.
Awesome. All right. So I'm not going to play around with screen a little bit, but you can see some of that. I got involved in Interact on my very first day, joining Rotary. Was asked if I would participate in a meeting with the principal over at Highland Park High School. That had Terry Beck, and Curtis was the one that did the ask, and Joni was there as well. And very exciting, because when we talked to the principal, they said, hey, there's a group that has started the previous year that is focusing on service. They are called the Scots Movement. So we merged both Scots Movement and Interact together at Highland Park High School. We are very active in doing tie blankets, and have done that from the get-go. Actually, I would love to see a little bit of a raise of hands, or a little, maybe do the high hand sign. How many of you have gotten to participate in tying blankets with us, or helping us with diapers, or the Christmas drive, or the Lego drive, or the yard sale, or the speed networking, or the resume training? A lot of hands are going to go up that have helped participate in this. In these activities. So the tie blankets continues to go on. One of the things that I love to say is that this year we got a interested community member who actually gave a donation to Rotary, who then allowed us to buy fabric. So any of those that are interested in a specific thing that we do, we'd love to have those funds, time, talent, and treasure. We also have helped with pillowcase dresses. And here's just some of the 40 that we have put together, tie-dyes, and those go internationally to our little girls who might need something fun to wear after their life has been destroyed. Another thing this year, our Interact created its logo and has shirts for sale. The other thing that was really, really neat is that our group had T-High and Highland Park High School. We gave the T-High group over to Rotary South, and this year in their trunk or treat, they had extra candy because it was on a horribly rainy day. And so to see those two Interact groups pay it forward to the other one. So T-High brought all of their extra candy for Highland Park High School's first annual Fall Festival Trunk or Treat. And if you will look at these pictures, this is monumental. We had over 1,000 people come out for our first event. And this is where we want to say, time spent with Interact is a memory you will obviously always, always remember. And then it truly is about the kids. And getting to see Sitlani, who is now on the president's list, and several of our girls that are now in college and doing cheerleading and going into engineering. And that's really the true thing, by being able to mentor and come with these kids and be a part of their life. I'm a first-gen college attending person, and it's so fun to see Highland Park kids going to college and being part of their community. So I encourage and hope everybody will really, really want to do youth services with us. So there's the plug. Thank you much.
Thank you so much, Angel. So that mostly concludes our Okay, well, because we are out of time, I was going to see really quick, Jeanette, is there anything that you would like to add before we give it back to Marie so everybody can go about their days and think about which committees that they want to join and how they want to get more involved in our Topeka Rotary Club?
Yes, Shelley, thank you. Just briefly, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jeanette Weens, co-chair with Shelley of the membership committee. Want to summarize, there are so many benefits to being a Rotarian, but I want to say 3 of them that come to mind right away. One is friendships. Rotary provides friendships and fellowship, and that's one of the reasons that Rotary began in 1905. The second is business development. Rotarians help each other, and collectively we help others. And lastly, it's the opportunity to serve. Really, Rotary, that's our business, is mankind, and our product is service. So the best reason for becoming a Rotarian is to serve. It's a chance for us to help others, and it's a chance for us to feel that self-fulfillment that comes from helping others. I want the new members over the last couple of years to know that I will be reaching out next week to just have a chat with you personally, get some feedback about our orientation, and also get some feedback on your interest in what committee you might be interested in serving on. Thank you, Shelley.
All right, so thank you. That was amazing. Jeanette, Shelley, Cody, Stan, Joan, and Angel. There's just so many people that are just making this all work, and they're your Rotarians. They're the ones that are working to make this happen, but we can only do it if all of us are working together. And what I really loved about this, and this is the beauty of Zoom, is I could see those smiling faces as we were working our way through this. I would imagine you learned something new that you didn't know was happening, and maybe we inspired you to consider time, talent, or treasure. All of them have value for us, and all of them really are helping us to move forward with our work. And so I'm going to just move on to the next part, which is our next meeting is February 3rd. And that is a hybrid meeting again. So that's Zoom and in person at Kay's Garden. And Linda Caries will be our speaker, and she will present on the Osher, I never say that right, Institute. And that is a continuous learning opportunity for adults to just keep learning, because you're never too young or too old to keep learning and learn something new. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And so are there any other announcements? Does anybody have anything that they want to announce before we do the 4-way test? Okay. So the 4-way test, of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? For us, will it be fun and kind? Thank you so very much. I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you in person and over Zoom next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think it went well, Shelley.
Thanks. Yeah, we ran right up to the wire there. I was getting a little nervous as I was watching the clock. I was like, I didn't time myself to see if I went over a bunch compared to what I had been doing, but
it was perfect. It was perfect.
Good.